Tonight, we'll dive home alone, chilling stories that prove the darkness hides more than just silence. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and let's begin.
It was a quiet Sunday night in the small town of Maplewood. The streets outside were slick with recent rain, the lampposts glowing faintly against the mist that hung low to the ground. 13-year-old Daniel Myers sat curled up on the couch, a blanket wrapped around him, and a bowl of popcorn balanced on his lap. For the first time in his life, his parents had trusted him to stay home alone. His mother and father were only a few miles away, attending a dinner party at their friend's house. They promised they'd be back before midnight, but for Daniel, even 2 or 3 hours alone felt like a lifetime. At first, he enjoyed the freedom. He turned the television up louder than usual, flipped through channels his parents never let him watch, and felt proud that he was finally considered old enough to manage himself. But as the hours dragged on, the novelty began to fade, and the silence of the house pressed in around him. The Myers lived in a modest 2-story home on the edge of town. Their backyard ended in a line of trees that stretched deep into the woods. During the day, it was beautiful. At night, it was a black wall that seemed to swallow sound and light. Daniel found himself glancing at the windows more than once, making sure the curtains were closed tightly. By 9 p.m., the wind had picked up. Branches scratched against the siding, and every so often the old pipes in the basement groaned like a distant moan. Daniel tried to convince himself it was nothing, that houses made strange noises when they settled. Still, the unease grew in his chest, a tight knot he couldn't shake. The tapping at the glass. It was during a commercial break that he heard it for the first time. The sound was faint but deliberate, not random like a branch blown against a window. It was rhythmic, almost like knuckles against glass. Daniel muted the TV, his heart hammered in his chest. The sound came again, clearer this time. He forced himself off the couch and crept toward the living room window. The curtain swayed slightly as he pushed it open just enough to peek outside. At first he saw nothing but his own reflection, pale and wide-eyed in the glass. The yard was empty. The trees loomed silently beyond the back fence. But then, just as he was about to breathe a sigh of relief, his stomach dropped. A face pressed against the window. It was there for an instant before he stumbled back in horror. Pale skin stretched tight over sharp cheekbones, eyes too wide, staring directly at him. And then gone. The face seemed to melt into the dark as if it had never been there at all. Daniel's knees nearly gave out. He dropped the bowl of popcorn, kernels scattering across the floor. His breathing came in shallow gasps as he scrambled for the phone. His fingers shook as he dialed his mother's number. Mom, there's someone outside, at the window." There was a pause on the other end, then his mother's voice, calm but tight. "Lock every door. Don't open anything. Stay on the line with me until we get back." Daniel swallowed hard, nodding even though she couldn't see. He grabbed the flashlight from the kitchen drawer and went room to room, checking the locks with trembling hands. Front door, locked. Back door, locked. Basement door, locked. But as he passed the kitchen, he froze. The knob on the back door was turning. The Intruder's game. Slowly, carefully, the metal knob twisted back and forth, the sound echoing in the silent kitchen. Someone was on the other side, testing it, pushing it, trying to find a weakness. Daniel backed away, the flashlight beam jittering wildly across the walls. He wanted to scream, but no sound came out. His mother's voice was still faintly audible from the phone he had dropped on the couch, calling his name. The knob stilled. Silence pressed in like a heavy blanket. Then, footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps circling the house. Daniel crept to the nearest window and peeked through the narrow slit in the curtain. He saw him. A man in a dark hood, tall and thin, moving with eerie patience. The man stopped now and then to glance at the windows, tilting his head as though listening. Daniel ducked back, heart slamming against his ribs. The footsteps moved to the far side of the house. Daniel tried to steady his breathing, praying the man would give up, that it was just some sick prank. Then, the power went out. The house plunged into darkness. The hum of the refrigerator died. The clock on the microwave blinked off. The only light was the weak glow of the flashlight trembling in Daniel's hand. And somewhere in the darkness outside, the man laughed.
Hiding in the dark. Daniel knew he had to hide. He couldn't risk staying near the doors or windows. He sprinted to the dining room and ducked under the heavy oak table, pulling the chair in front of him like a shield. His breaths came in ragged bursts as he clutched the flashlight to his chest, switching it off to avoid being seen. The house groaned and settled, every sound magnified in the dark. Then came the scraping. Something hard dragged slowly across the back door. Metal on metal. A knife? A crowbar? Daniel squeezed his eyes shut, trying not to whimper. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. Time lost all meaning. And then, footsteps inside. He hadn't heard the door open, but there was no mistaking it. Slow, deliberate steps on the hardwood floor. Daniel bit down on his hand to stifle a sob. The man was inside the house. The footsteps grew closer. One step, another. Boards creaked under the intruder's weight. A faint wheeze accompanied each breath, raspy and uneven. The man was in the dining room. Through the gap between the chair legs, Daniel saw boots, black boots, scuffed and wet with mud. They stopped inches from the table. Silence. Then a hand, long fingers wrapped around the edge of the table, curling against the wood. The man stood there, motionless, as if he knew exactly where Daniel was hiding. And then, knocking. 3 sharp knocks against the underside of the table. Daniel clamped both hands over his mouth, tears streaming down his cheeks. The parents return. Headlights cut across the living room curtains. A car door slammed outside. "Daniel!" His father's voice calling from the driveway. The boots moved away in an instant, quick, purposeful strides retreating toward the back of the house. A door creaked. The sound of footsteps faded into nothing. When Daniel's parents burst inside moments later, they found him curled beneath the dining room table, pale and trembling, unable to speak. They searched the house top to bottom, but found no sign of forced entry, no broken locks, no open windows. The power flicked back on as suddenly as it had gone out. But outside, near the back door, in the mud where the yard met the woods, they found footprints. Large, deep prints leading away from the house. And at the window where Daniel had first seen the face, a single greasy handprint smeared across the glass. Aftermath. Daniel never stayed home alone again. For weeks he refused to sleep without a light on. Every creak of the house, every rustle of wind in the trees sent him scrambling for his parents. The police dismissed it as a possible prank or attempted burglary, but Daniel knew better. He could still feel the vibration of those knocks under the table, could still see the pale face pressed against the glass. And sometimes, late at night, he swore he heard it again. Tap, tap, tap.
This is Mr. Midnight. Until next time, sleep with the lights on. Subscribe for more true scary stories, Home Alone horror tales, and creepy encounters. Videos every week.